Uh, Khalil, finally, I'd like to ask about sort of the economic health, the economic state of. Yeah, I'm not asking you to open the books up to me, but just generally, funding, because this is, you know, anyone who hasn't been living under a rock knows that finance and funding is a serious, serious issue these days, with budgets being slashed, exponentially. For an institution like the Schomburg, who has so many people that rely upon it, how are you all navigating forward? Is there a strategy in place? What do you see? What are the headwinds looking like for you all?
Right. Well, as you know, Max, being part of the art community and many the people who are your supporters and audience for your work, in terms of public dollars and support for the kinds of humanities and artwork that help remind us who we are and why we are here, which is not just to make money for money's sake.
Surprise, surprise.
Right, surprise, surprise. Budgets have been slashed. We've lost about 20 staffers here over the past 3 years.
Wow, and what percentage-wise does that represent, would you say?
That's about a quarter of our workforce, about a third, anywhere to 25 to 33% of our workforce. Mm-hmm. Now, some of those were retirees, et cetera, who were encouraged to leave sooner than they might have planned. But the bottom line is that in the wake of the 2008 recession, librarians and teachers were on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And
libraries.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It really just shows you how our priorities as a society are oftentimes in reverse, mixed up. What I'm committed to is following in some ways the path of my predecessor, who over a 27-year period, Howard Dodson, developed wonderful relationships with his generational cohort. And so people like Harry Belafonte, Cicely Tyson, Ozzie Davis, and Ruby Dee were core supporters of this institution and were at his, not necessarily beck and call, that might be too strong a word, but they certainly were willing to lend their time and offer their support so that he could fundraise on behalf of the center. And so I will be reaching out to Jay-Z, to Beyonce, Kanye West, to Anthony Mackie, to all sorts of people.
Russell Simmons,
you got it. And we're putting together a list. So if you haven't heard your name, trust me, soon you'll be on it. It's now time, really, because the thing about it is, in a way that the cultural arts movement of the 1970s, for many people, made supporting institutions like this life or death.
Yeah. Absolutely.
People can have huge commercial success outside the scope of the Black community and outside of the scope of institutions like this. They can exist in a world apart from places like that. And of course, that is not only to this institution's detriment, but it's really to the detriment of setting a standard for philanthropic giving in this community that matches the financial success of many people today. So with all of that wealth comes the same kind of responsibility, in the same way that Warren Buffett doesn't plan on taking his billions to his grave or giving it to his children. We want to be part of helping to change existing attitudes and practices around real philanthropic giving in the African American community.
So it sort of goes with that saying, to those who much has been given, much is expected in return.
Absolutely, that's right. So it's not just a new song.
Right. It's a pleasure and a joy speaking with you. Thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.